Hey everyone, welcome back to my One Piece manga reading club. What is this? Well, I'm reacting to One Piece for the first time. About 6 months ago now, a buddy of mine got me to watch One Piece Red. I thought the characters were kind of interesting and decided to start reading the manga. My expectation was that I would get about 30 chapters in and kind of drop it, because this is a lot of one series to read. I am now currently on what is this chapter? I am now currently reading through chapters 322, and I got to 353. I'm done about half of the Water 7 arc, and every week or so, I tell you guys my reactions and what I'm experiencing. I am reading the manga, so if you've seen it in the anime, it doesn't click with me the same way as reading it in the manga. And I'm irritated with some of you about that, and we'll be talking about it at the end of today's episode when we have a sit-down powwow and we discuss how this is going to be moving forward. Also, I'm not a part of any of the communities. I have managed to block the key phrase One Piece on my phone and my Reddit because they tried to spoil something on that. Well, they didn't try. Crunchyroll did. Damn you, Crunchyroll, and your titles. So everything's blocked. I get no experience in the One Piece community except for you guys and my buddy Kevin. So I experience things in a different way than you may, and I have nobody putting their opinion on myself. So let's talk about Water 7, because holy crap, is this amazing! Okay, so let me catch you up to where I am in One Piece real quick. Chapters 1 through 100, East Blue Saga, that was great. Got me hooked wholeheartedly into One Piece. What cemented that I was going to be reading One Piece for the long term was the Alabasta arc with Vivi. Loved that. Loved Vivi as a character. Loved what they did. They did a great job of balancing world building, character development, and propping up One Piece mystery so that I would be attached to it. I went from not really liking Luffy to really just appreciating his lack of intelligence, but crazy common sense and ability to get himself out of any situation and beat anybody. And then we got to the Skypiea arc. I actually liked the Skypiea arc, but my complaints for it was that it was building up world elements for something that doesn't seem to matter to the overall storyline, and we didn't really focus on much character development as our characters were just there for the ride. A lot of people disagreed with my opinion. It's whatever. But I really did enjoy getting onto the Long Ring Long Island arc and kind of feeling like we were getting back to a regular pirate adventure. In Water 7, Oda has just changed the way he's telling the story, and I love the way he's doing this. So Water 7, at the beginning of the arc, we went through the Long Ring Long Island and they moved onward. They decided they needed to find a shipwright so that they can fix their ship, because the Going Merry has taken a lot of damage and they need to get it fixed. So they dock on the island of Water 7, and everyone does what they normally do at the beginning of these arcs. They disperse into other groups. Zoro's guarding the ship. Robin, Sanji, and Chopper go off in one direction. Luffy and Nami go in the other direction. And Usopp, forget where Usopp was going originally, but he's carrying a lot of the money. They had all the gold from Skypiea. They sold it. We have 300 million. I want to call them double dollars. I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, Trigun called them double. I know they're berries, which also doesn't make any sense. Like, why are we calling them berries? But every time I say 300 million or 100 million or 60 million, I'm always like, double dollars. No, that's Trigun, damn it. They're taking 300 million. Usopp, for some reason, has 200 million of it, and they have 100 million. It's a little dispersed, a little weird. I was kind of blitzing through this particular arc, and we'll talk about how I read and stuff at the end of this, because I do want to talk about that. What it boils down to is there's a group called the Frankie family, and the Frankie family beats up Usopp to steal his money. The Frankie family basically beats up pirates and just kind of takes their stuff. They're not revered as heroes, but they're not revered as villains because they just kind of do their own thing. They're known as the Dismantlers. Over at Dock 1, Luffy and Nami run into a character known as Iceberg. Iceberg is the town's mayor, and Iceberg is also the president of Galila. Galila is the shipwrights that we're going to be dealing with for the bulk of this story. At this point, when I was reading it, the world building already felt better than Skypiea. And for me, I think the reason behind that is this felt more grounded. The issue I had with Skypiea's world building is that it was Skypiea. It wasn't on the ocean. It wasn't grounded. We were kind of going into the fantastical. While this just felt like, okay, we're establishing Water 7. We've established the sea train. We've established, I think it was a frog that got in the way of the train. So we have the giant animals. We're establishing the people on the island. So I really enjoyed what they were doing. It just felt like we were getting back to like Alabasta and Arabasta and Drum Island and all the different arcs. It just felt like we were going back to more grounded pirate stories where you can stretch across the entire island. They all get together, and what we quickly discover after trying to talk to Iceberg, one of the members of the crew, Kaku, maybe? Kaku? Keku? I don't know. It's Kaku. Again, I'm reading the manga, not watching the anime. Don't know how they said it in there. Anyway, he runs off and shows some crazy skills. Now, I saw this part and thought, okay, so the people of Water 7 have some crazy skills. This could make for some interesting fights because obviously Luffy's eventually going to go up against this Frankie character. I also thought maybe this guy was going to be, because they also are still looking for a carpenter, so I thought this guy might be the carpenter. He's doing some crazy skills. He's got a square nose. That's like a very prominent character trait. They keep calling him the square nose guy. We have Usopp, who's basically Pinocchio. So, it all works. It all works perfectly fine. Frankie family beats up Usopp. They steal the $200 million from him, or berries from him. Robin goes missing because somebody said the phrase CP9, which, okay, she disappears. Sanji and Chopper are looking for her. Nami and Luffy find out the terrible news from Kaku, Square Nose guy, that there is no way to fix their ship. They explained what a keel is, and I didn't know anything about this, so I wonder if this is real or not. But either way, a keel is the main line of the wood that goes through the ship, and the Going Merry's keel is too destroyed to repair. If they were to repair the keel, they would have to replace the keel, and if you replace the keel, you're replacing the entire ship, so it wouldn't be the Going Merry. This was a little disappointing, because they're obviously establishing that we need to get a new ship, but I've been reading 350 chapters, and the Going Merry, I was waiting for it to talk. Look, there was a long time ago that Usopp said something about, I wish I could talk to the Going Merry, and I was like, the boat's gonna talk eventually. It's gonna be a crew member. It's got a face. It seems to care. Usopp's talking to it. And I guess it's not gonna happen. And at first I thought they were gonna easily fix this, but the way the story goes in a minute, I don't think they are. I'm not that far to discover that. We'll figure it out. But that was a little sad. Going Merry's going to get put away. But apparently I'm not the only one that was a little sad that the boat was going to finally get replaced. Luffy, Nami, everyone didn't want to get rid of the Going Merry. It was a terrible news that they were going to lose the Going Merry. Meanwhile, Usopp gets found by Nami. I think it was Nami. Either way, he ends up getting brought back to the boat, and he starts expressing how weak he is. He's so weak, he's not on the level of Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Chopper. He can't do any of their stuff. He's just a weakling, and now he's lost them 200 million berries. So how is he going to get it back? How is he ever going to do all this? Only for Luffy to tell him that they don't need the 200 million berries, because for 100 million, they can replace the Going Merry. Now, this started a big argument between Usopp and Luffy, which I did watch the anime chapter for this because I wanted to see the fight that's coming up next in the anime. And I didn't get the same emotion reading the manga. So reading the manga, going through this particular chapter, I could tell that Usopp was very upset. But Luffy, I don't know, he didn't seem to care as much reading through it in the manga. And I don't know if it was the way it was portrayed or the facial expression or whatever. Watching it in the anime, yeah, he definitely cared a lot more. And he was definitely more upset by the situation. So I do like the fact that it was different in the anime than how I was portraying it in the manga, because otherwise we'd be having this discussion and I'd be like, it was weird that Luffy didn't care about the Going Merry. So I'm glad that I watched the anime to get more of the voice actors' emotions on losing the Going Merry. Because he seemed upset, but he didn't seem like upset. He just seemed like, drat, we're losing the Going Merry. I don't know what, oh, well, here's the book. I guess that's kind of the way Usopp was taking it too, because in the manga, Usopp was like, stop playing around. Why are you looking at the catalog? Why don't you seem to care? And I kind of wondered the same thing, but like I said, anime, voice actor did a much better job with those emotions than I was reading it, so I definitely got that more, that Luffy did care. He didn't want to lose the Going Merry. This led to the two of them arguing back and forth over and over and over, which eventually leads to the fight of Usopp versus Luffy. Usopp challenges him to a duel, 10 p.m. Luffy agrees. And this, I'm so glad I watched it in the anime. The fight in the manga was incredible and made me sad. And it hit so much harder than the fight between Luffy and Zoro. So if you remember all the way back when they were on some island before getting to Vivi's island, I think it's when they met Vivi, Luffy and Zoro fought each other over a simple mistake, a simple miscommunication. And it was a cool fight, but there was no stakes to it because you knew it was a misunderstanding. You knew they were going to get back together. At the end of the whole thing, it was whatever. But this one, the only reason, this feels like the crew is breaking up. And Robin's not there either. And we're going to get more into that in a second. The fight between them is like they're going back and forth. Usopp is using everything he has to try and stop Luffy, but he knows he can't stop Luffy. Luffy's got crazy powers. And as he said earlier, he's weaker. He can't do it. He's using his knowledge of Luffy to get an upper hand, to like, I know what he's going to do. I know how you fight. I know what your powers are. So I can work around that. And he's trying so hard. And Luffy's just not cutting loose. Like, he's just not going crazy in standard Luffy faction. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I took it as Luffy was holding back. He didn't want to hurt Usopp. And I felt like that was hammered home by the flashbacks. Like how he met Usopp, how he got on the boat with them. The original, just get on. What are you doing? We're friends already. Going back to their moments like, oh, this is my spot to sit on the front of the Going Merry. And it was hitting so hard. And I'm like, Luffy, don't do it. Don't hit Usopp. Figure out some way. Tie him up, knock him down. But the whole time that's going on, Chopper's kind of saying the same things. End the fight. And they got Zoro explaining like, no, this is about honor. They have to fight this out, and you can't pity him. And so eventually Luffy does gun bullet, a gum bullet, smacks him in the chest. Usopp's down for the count. And he's already injured too. And even then, Chopper wants to run out and save his friend, bandage him, do something. And Zoro's like, no. He left the crew. You can't pity him. You will make him feel worse. And that's it. And then, now in the manga, yes, Luffy was upset. But again, the voice actor's portrayal and the emotions of upset Luffy and upset Nami and upset Chopper and upset Zoro and upset Sanji, it just hit so much harder. And I think that for very key pivotal fights like this and emotional moments, I probably should pop up that episode of the anime just to kind of get more of it. Because reading the manga, manga is art. And art is subjective. So it's how I read it and how I take it. So reading through it, I can be like, well, Luffy's upset, but he's not that upset. But watching the anime, that's more of an in your face. Here's how it's supposed to be. So it came across that way. So then we go to Usopp's gone. Luffy gives him the Going Merry. That's kind of how it resolves. We're going to get a new boat. So you just take the Going Merry. Oh, and I forgot. I even wrote a note down for this one in my notes. One thing that I don't think was in the manga, because I did not catch that panel, they did a great job of even the Going Merry is crying in the anime. It gets splashed with water, and it shows the water coming down out of the eyes, and it pivots just to focus on the Going Merry's ship head. And I'm like, even the Going Merry's upset because the whole crew's going to break apart over this. Like, even the boat knows what's at stake here. It just did a great job, and it really stood out with me. So I even wrote a note. Even the Going Merry is crying, and then I misspelled crying, so it's like CRYIBG. I don't know, a fat finger. I got huge hands. So anyway, we get back to the actual storyline, and the next day they all move out. They get a hotel room. They're all going to stay there, but no one's comfortable with what's going on. They just lost Usopp. No one knows where Robin is right now. That CP9 line, and she's just gone, and no one knows what's happening with her. We're back at the city, and they're going around, and oh, I will say this, because I do know this for a fact. I don't know how to pronounce their names. The little weird horsey things that they're riding around in. Okay, those things have like no personality in the manga. And in the anime, they're like making noises. They're seeing things going on. I loved their portrayal of the anime. The manga, they practically were just inanimate objects. Like there was like no emotion, nothing going on with them. They were just like, oh, look, it's kind of like a horse. I think they called them bulls or something like that. But either way, that was much better in the anime, the way that those things came across. So what happens is, during all of this, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all went and destroyed the Frankie house because the Frankie house had stolen the money from Usopp. That all happened. It wasn't that pivotal or important, in my opinion, because all it led to was, crap, we can't get the money back. Destroy the house. And they destroyed Frankie's house. Frankie left to go spend the 200 million berries that he had gotten. And so now we're at, like, he's come back. He realizes what's going on. So he hunts down Luffy. And he hunts him down, and they go into a battle. And that's when we discover Frankie's a robot cyborg thing. Also, Frankie's in a Speedo, which in the manga in black and white didn't really portray how, wonky it was to see Frankie's butt in his Speedo. But when I'm watching the anime and everything's got color to it, Frankie's in a Speedo. But anyway. But anyway, they go into their big battle. And that's when we discover that he has cyborg powers. He's got this big air cannon. He can do crazy stuff. He can breathe fire. He's got a pompadour that tells you his power levels. I don't know, like, is that just coming out of Dragon Ball? Because that's cool. Like, he's like, I'm out of power. See, my pompadour's down. Like, it was just like, what? Okay. Let's display your power levels, Frankie. I also found it weird when he had to power up that it's by soda. He goes and gets soda and he just shoves him in the middle and he's like sucking up the soda, but whatever. And also at this point, I wrote the note, we have a fruit that lets you change into animals or change into humans if you are an animal. We have body changing fruit, like the ones that turn the fat ship lady into the super skinny, sexy ship lady. And I think the Bungie, but the clown that can separate his body. I think that's the same fruit. And then we also got the superpower fruits, like what Luffy has. So we got 3 different fruits, and like, you just didn't want to make another one? We're going to make cyborgs now? Cyborgs exist in One Piece? What's next? I mean, what is Inaru? What does he count as? Is that a fruit? I think that's a fruit. He's also got like crazy powers. He's a god. One Piece just seems to have a reason to have every kind of power and thing in its universe. Floating islands. We got pirates. We got cyborgs. Whatever. Cool. I'm on board. I'm just saying. I'm noticing 350 chapters in, we've got like everything in One Piece. So during this battle, we discovered that Iceberg, the mayor / head of Dock 1, has actually been injured or shot. He's injured, but he was shot. There was an assassination attempt. And word is going around that Robin was there, which Luffy is immediately, that's not Robin. That's not Robin. Now, I don't know if in the anime it's done differently, but in the manga, I found how ready he was to defend Robin a little odd. So Robin at this point is joined up towards the end of like chapter 200. And she was shady and iffy and didn't work with the group. 50 of those chapters, she's shady, doesn't say much, doesn't talk to people, does her own thing, not really working with the crew. 50 more of those chapters during Skypiea, she's shady, she's not working with them, she's not talking to them. For like 120 chapters, Robin's just kind of been on the crew. And I get there's probably stuff in between that they're not portraying, or maybe the anime had more stuff back and forth. But from what I remember in the manga, there wasn't very much actual Robin doing things that the crew would trust. But Luffy is gung-ho. Like, Robin would never do that. This is not Robin. Robin is a member of our crew. She will join us. I'm not allowing her to leave, blah, 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 blah. Even Zoro at one point is like, we need to question whether or not she's a good guy or a bad guy. We met her as a bad guy. What are her intentions? So I just found Luffy's readiness to accept her, like, so ready. She's being accused of an assassination. She was a bad guy when they met them. And I don't remember too many direct conversations between like Luffy and Robin. I remember one in particular where he yelled at her for not telling him land ahoy, but like it's just probably me nitpicking. I'm not gonna, like, obviously Robin's on the crew. I think that's one thing that I have had spoiled. Who's still on the crew later? So whatever. This eventually leads to the fight with Frankie. We discover he's a cyborg. Then we end up fighting with Dock 1 because they're accusing Luffy and Nami of assassinating Iceberg, or attempting to assassinate Iceberg, and they're doing that because Robin is seen at the scene of the crime, so they're grabbing all the Straw Hat Pirates. During all of this, Sanji and Chopper run into Robin, and she straight up tells them, I'm leaving the crew. I'm not on the crew anymore. And then she disappears again, so now we've established that Robin is leaving. Usopp is left. After Crew's running from the police, and Luffy and Nami are going to go talk to Iceberg to figure out what's going on and find out if he actually saw Robin at the scene of the crime. I did find this kind of funny because Nami's like, okay, we're going to go secret. We're going to sneak in. We're just going to figure it out. And Luffy's like, slingshot daytime through the window. He's running around the building trying to figure it all out. But Iceberg calls him into the room to explain that he did see Robin. And Iceberg's got some weird, mysterious things going on. And that's a part of the story building that I really enjoyed. A lot of the story formatting that they're doing at this point, because we've gotten more character development. We've established the world that they're on, and now we've got this big mystery going on, which I always find mysteries to be intriguing, and that's what's happening right here. We have this big mystery. Did Robin try to assassinate him? Is Robin a bad guy? What's the CP9? What is Iceberg doing? What is happening? There's a lot of running around, a lot of things going back and forth, but what it really boils down to is we discover that the CP9 are the 5 individuals that have been working with Iceberg closely for 5 years. Turns out Iceberg has the blueprints to a big boat They imply super weapon, but they also just say it's a boat. The only thing I found, I'm trying to figure out if it's a super weapon, if it's just a boat, or if it's something to get to the super weapons. Because up until now, the super weapons or the secret weapons have been like ancient things. Like the one in Skypiea was from like when Goldie Roger was doing his sailing and stuff like that. But then they imply the ship and its blueprints came out from 7 years ago. So I might just be I thought they were super old and they're not super old. So that just might be me. But the ship is what everyone's after. This ship is what they all want. The blueprints for the ship. CP9 has got Iceberg down, and we find out that Iceberg is trying to hide the blueprints to the ship. And the reveal comes into is that they were on Tom's shipbuilding crew to build that ship. And Iceberg and another individual were the interns. And the other individual's name is Cootie or Cuddy Flan or Flam. But what we discover is that that person isn't that person anymore. They're Frankie. Frankie is the other intern. And so now Iceberg and Frankie are the ones who know how to build the ship, and they've got the blueprints. And the CP9 has all these individuals that are crazy powerful, and Robin. Luffy and Zoro and all of them show up, and Luffy's demanding that Robin come back. What is Robin doing? What are they doing to you to make you join them? And she tells him that if she stays with the crew, she can't accomplish her goals. We also find out during this, it was during the discussions of Luffy and Iceberg, Robin's thing is that that she is the only person who can find the secret weapons. They don't really go into how or why, but even at the age of 8, she was able to figure out the secret weapons and their locations based on the ancient languages. That's why the world government put out a bounty on her head, and she's gone into hiding for the last 20 years, working with different organizations to try and find the secret weapons. So she's trying to find the secret weapons, and now she's working with CP9, and she's telling Luffy that she can't accomplish her goals without being off the crew. I don't know what's going on with that fully, but I'm really intrigued as to what is happening. These assassins then use their 6 super crazy martial arts abilities to just decimate everyone. Zoro and Luffy are knocked clean across the island. Chopper is buried under the building. Nami manages to get away. Iceberg, I think he's in the rubble or whatever. Does it say where he ended up? Because I don't remember seeing him get out. Oh no, Iceberg and Paulie, which is the other guy, he had these cool goggles. I thought he'd be cool in the crew too. But yeah, those two got pulled away by CP9 because they're the only ones who know the location of everything. And what it's figured out is that since Cuddy Flom or Cootie Flom or whatever his name is actually Frankie, they're going to go to Frankie and figure out how to build this ship and where the real blueprints are. Because as it turns out, Iceberg made fake blueprints to psych out the CP9. So CP9 and Robin are off to go and get the blueprints from Frankie, or beat up Frankie, or do something with Frankie. Luffy and Zoro are missing. Nami is knocked out of the building, and Chopper's buried. And where's Sanji? Sanji's somewhere! And on top of all of this, Frankie has kidnapped Usopp to try and get Luffy to fight him, but that doesn't matter because Usopp's not on their crew anymore, and they're kind of preoccupied figuring out what's going on with Iceberg and Robin. What is happening? But I'm loving it because the story is just building up this mystery, piling things on top of piling things, all established in the world that we've been building up for the last 300-something chapters now. It's just doing a great job, and I'm so intrigued as to what is going on next. But that's where I decided to leave it because that's 30 chapters, and just going over these 30 chapters took me 27 minutes. So based upon what I'm reading here, I've got about 20 to 30 more chapters until we get to the end of this Water 7 arc, and then we're going to get into Eni's arc. I'm just going to say Eni's, and you can all tell me how wrong I am. Eni's arc is next. But holy crap, this is getting so good and so intriguing. Typically, especially during Skypiea, and the reason why those videos took so long to come out, I was reading 3 to 5 chapters at a time, and then kind of being like, I'll go do something else. But I had to stop myself reading the Water 7 arc, because I knew if I read the entire Water 7 arc, this video would be too long. Now, I want to just say one last thing, because I'm ending these on like, my gripes with you, the viewer. Okay, so, a lot of you were giving me shit for making a comment about his magical bike that can ride on water. Let me clarify something for you real quick. A lot of you are watching the anime, or have watched the anime. Things are portrayed differently in the anime than in the manga. It's just fact. You have music, sound effects, you have extended scenes, you have voice actors. I just stated how watching the anime version of the Usopp, I got a completely different portrayal of the Usopp versus Luffy fight. You see, what basically boils down to is when I'm reading the manga, I only have black and white pictures to work off of. No sound effects and no nothing. And a bicycle doesn't ride on ice. Never mind the fact a man can't make ice out of his hands in the real world. So when I see a bicycle riding on what appears to be kicked up water, that's a bike riding on water. Now, I get if you've watched the anime and you're like, oh, he's on ice. That's quite obvious. How could Benny not get that? I assume he's just not fully reading the chapters. No, I'm reading them. I'm also an avid cyclist. I go mountain biking, road biking. I have a fat bike for the snow, which is what that type of bike is. And I have an e-bike, and I have another trail bike. I know the types of bikes, okay? I know it. And the fact is, it wasn't portrayed very well in the manga that he was making ice, and my prior knowledge to bicycles implies that that bike should look completely different if he's going to make ice and ride on it. Okay? Okay? I know what I'm talking about. The point I'm making is when you watch the anime and you read the manga, you're going to get different. It's going to be different no matter what. I might not have, maybe he clearly made it ice in the manga. I might have been grazing over it. The way I read books, because I speed read, is sometimes I'm just reading and not paying full attention to the artwork. I've stated that before, that sometimes the fights get me a little hyped up and I can't follow what's fully happening in the artwork. So for those of you who wanted to call me out because the bike is on ice, you're right, I'm wrong, but it's gonna happen again. I'm gonna misconstrue something in the manga. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll be back real soon with the rest of this. I had to make this video so I can go keep reading it and not like mix up what's happening. You guys keep saying we're about to get to peak One Piece. I don't know where that's gonna happen, but I feel like it's this, because this is great so far. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time right here.